What a boring day. I'm doing a little work right now. We're in like a little break. It's really cold in this room. It's like 95 degrees outside, and I'm freezing inside here. Got my hood up. Went to the gym super early, obviously, because as soon as I get done with this, I'm racing to Peter's house so we can edit the podcast we did on Sunday, which I think is going to be a good episode. I've been just sitting in here, just working all day, and I'm so hungry. I think it's that early morning cardio. I've eaten a lot today. I don't want to tell you how much I've eaten. I ate normal meals. I had about a little less than half a pound of ground beef and a cup of rice twice. Once at 8 and then once at 1, plus a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and a Snickers bar. Not the picture of health, but pretty good for like macros. You know, it's like very lean ground beef and white rice. So there's nothing wrong with that. Been fucking around with the droid a little bit. The droid? What is this called? Drone. The droid. It doesn't fly very well. Kind of it best flies like an inch off the ground. It doesn't have the power to kind of hover midair, but it's pretty cool. What else? Nothing else. This is a whispery post, and I don't know really why I'm whispering because no one's available to listen. But nevertheless, here we are, and here we'll remain. So guys, we are heading to Peter's house to edit the podcast, to teach Peter how to edit the podcast, because you can give a man a fish and you'll feed him for a day. Teach him to edit podcasts and he can help you all the time with it, because you can't do it yourself all the time. Who has that kind of energy to edit every podcast? I mean, I can do it, it's not a problem. But Peter wants to learn, and so that's important to do. So we're going to teach him, and it's super easy. He'll get it like that. I was just rocking out to Stevie Wonder's Part-Time Lover. I don't know if you guys have heard that song. Maybe you're a little too young, but let me tell you, it fucking rocks. Copeland does a very, very good cover of it. From like 2006, they did 6 or 7 maybe, they did a cover record. I forget what it's called though. They covered Part-Time Lover, and they rocked it. I hate saying rocked. Rocked. Let me rock! But the Stevie Wonder version is sick. And I would play it for you now, except for I don't want to get a DCMA strike or whatever for copyrighted songs. Just this morning on my blog, I got a copyright strike because I took a I should probably... Ooh, I got to turn here. I took a little video took like a 9-second video of a part of the Olympics from a Russian live stream. Okay, so I was not watching on NBC. I was watching on a Russian live stream. The event took place. I filmed about 10 seconds of it, and I put it on my Tumblr blog, and it got like 75 likes or whatever. And then in the next morning, or I guess that was Saturday. This morning, I got an email saying, we've taken down your video because you've broken copyright law. And they always cite this fictitious person who's not I don't believe he's a real person. Let's see, what's his name? Jonathan Friend is not a real person that's out. I found content that I believe violates my copyright. There's no person named Jonathan Friend that holds a copyright of a sporting event that streamed from a Russian live stream. Go fuck yourselves, Tumblr, and go fuck yourself, Jonathan Friend, and go fuck yourselves especially to the IOC, who apparently is one of the most corrupt organizations in the history of the planet, second only to maybe FIFA. There's a great 30 for 30 on it, about the corruption in the IOC and all of that sports. It's such a scam. It's all a money grab. You know, when McDonald's and Coca-Cola are the title sponsors of the Olympic Games, there's something weird about that, right? There's no way that those things are related in any way. No way. I ate McDonald's a couple times last week because I have all these coupons. When you got the coops, you got to scoop. That's what I always say. But there's no way that you can say these are the highest level athletes that the world has to offer, and we're going to call this the greatest, the penultimate? Is that the second ultimate? I don't remember. We're going to call this the ultimate sporting event every 4 years, the most important thing that every athlete works for, and make McDonald's the sponsor. There's no fucking way. So, anyways, I am deep in Winter Park right now, Orlando, Florida, where we live, and this is actually sponsored. Oh, I just saw some Muslims that finished their sunset prayer. Looks like they all meet in that parking lot over there and they do their praying. The very first time, I moved to New York in 2010. The very first thing I saw when I got off the plane, I grab my bag, I get in a taxi. And I think it's a black guy driving, so it's like, he was like an American black guy. And we're stopped in traffic, and I look over at the airport, and there are all these Muslim men on their little towels or whatever, like praying in like the median of the highway, because it was lunchtime or whatever, and that was their time to pray. And they had, and I know Muslims, like, or a few at that point, but I didn't, and I was aware that they prayed at certain times of the day, but I was not like prepared to see that in the parking lot of the airport, basically, in LaGuardia. And so I was freaked. Not freaked, like scared. I was like, what the hell is this? What is going on? Anyway, I eventually became, not friends, but I had a working relationship with, my phone contacts had like 8 Muhammads listed. Muhammad Yunus, Muhammad, like, let's see. Let's look up some Muhammads. M-O-H. M-U. We have plain Muhammad. He was from New Jersey. And there was I had a food truck. And so the food truck industry is run by Greeks and Muslims. And so I knew a lot. Knew a lot of Jimmy the Greeks, and I knew a lot of Mohammeds that ran food truck commissaries and did repairs on vehicles. Boy, oh boy. I miss those days. And I think I mentioned this before. I just struggle nonstop with the idea of moving back to New York. Even today, I was longing for it. And I had, just 2 weeks ago, I applied for a bunch of jobs in New York under the guise, you know, like, when I moved there with $0. I knew one person. I didn't have a job, and I made it work for 3 years. And I actually found a really good job, and I really wish I could go back to work there. The place where I worked was amazing. And I've actually talked with the owners a few times about like returning to the fold, but we just haven't kind of we haven't coalesced it. It hasn't brought itself back to that place yet. The last contact was about 9 or 10 months ago when I was like trying to get something going. But anyway, I really blame this on Casey and Neistat. I didn't want to admit to you guys that I watch his videos. Obviously, everyone watches his videos. But he goes to the places that I went. And I was all over town in New York. I was uptown, downtown, east side, west side, Brooklyn, Queens, Coney Island. I drove to New Jersey all the time. I mean, I drove from Manhattan to Maine all the time. Part of our company was based in Maine. I was all over, and seeing him go all these strange places like the Diamond District and downtown to the water, in the financial district, and in the East Village and in the West Village, and weird spots in Midtown. Like, I miss going to all those places. Where the fuck am I going? Speaking where I'm going. I miss all those spots, and it just makes me so bitter. Not bitter. It makes me just long to get back to there. Even though when I left, I was so glad to leave because I was miserable because the city if you can't leave enough, if you're not rich enough to like leave every 4 to 6 weeks to take like a day or two vacation somewhere out of the city, you will drive yourself insane and you will be absolutely miserable. And by the end of my time there, I was miserable. I knew I had to leave when I saw there was a bum in my way and I stepped over him and I was pissed. Like, what the fuck are you doing in my way? I mean, it was a crowded sidewalk, but that's when I realized that I had sort of lost a little piece of humanity that I needed to get back. And I don't know that I've regained it right now. I mean, I hope, right? We all hope that we don't lose pieces of ourselves. And now, of course, back then I drank. I got sober in 2014, so I'm over 2 years sober now. So without AA, because fuck AA. So I'm in a much better place than I was then. I mean, I was a miserable alcoholic. I was miserable because I was in the city and because I was not making as much money as I wanted, and my relationships weren't great, and I was super. I mean, I'm chubby now. I was like fat then, not strong at all. I had super skinny legs and baby girl arms, and now I'm a whole new person. If I could go to New York now, I think I could thrive if I could just check my ego enough. And that's always been my killer. My one big downfall is I just think I'm so fucking great. Don't you think you're so great? I mean, I hope you guys all have great self-esteem. And I have very poor self-esteem when it comes to things. I have a great air of self-importance, but I have really low self-esteem about my body issues and the socioeconomic class that I was raised in. I was raised really poor, and my mom and family basically discouraged me from going to college as a young person. So I missed out on college, and that's not anyone's fault. That's just something that happened. But my upbringing really kind of guided. I had no supervision. I had no structure growing up. I could do anything I wanted. I could go almost anywhere I wanted, and I didn't need permission. I could just go. I never really had curfews. But on the other hand, the importance of saving and earning money was never impressed upon me. And to this day, I still don't give a shit about money. I have it, I spend it. If I don't have it, I don't have it. I just don't think it's an important part of who you are as a person, although it is a very important part of your ability to survive in the world. And I missed out on a lot of those key lessons. And so if you're listening to this right now and you're younger and you want to know what to do, I would say do not chase your dreams. Just don't. But you absolutely need to work hard and save your money, because you're going to want to be comfortable a few years from now. Your art might not carry you as far as you hope it will. So stay grinding. If you're on your grind, if that's like your aesthetic and you're every day, then stay. But it took me 30 years to learn to grind. Also there was I grew up in Florida, on the west coast of Florida, and there's like a vibe I get because it's so hot, because the heat is so oppressive, and the humidity is so pertinent. Not pertinent, that's a dumb word. The humidity and the heat mixed together. There's no seasons. There's no sense of a cyclical world. There's just a long, drawn-out period of heat. And I think when you miss out on the seasons, if you grew up in Indiana, you might have a super hot summer, and then you have a brutal winter. And so after the winter, the spring comes, and I can't believe it's spring. I'm so excited to look forward to the spring. And then we're going into summertime. Things are in bloom, things are looking up, things are growing. It's warm. I can feel the sun on my face, and then it's hot. Ooh, fall is upcoming. Fall is so lovely. I just love the crispness in the air, and then it's winter time again, and you're bunkered. But in Florida, there's none of that. There's just hot and a little less hot. And so I lived with this. I grew up with this super carefree attitude where nothing mattered. There was no problem that needed to be overcome ever. There was no sense of urgency. Just go to the beach, take things as they come, drink a ton of alcohol, cruise around in your cars. And so I just never learned to grind until I was 28, 29, and I really wanted something, or I really truly needed to survive. When I lived in New York, I had to hustle, or I wasn't gonna die. I knew people in my life. Like I had a grandmother at that point, and I had a mother and a stepdad. They weren't going to let me die, but I needed to hustle to survive. And so my point is, if you are not hustling, if you are not, just buckled down and doing everything you can to make and earn and save money, then you are really doing yourself a big disservice. And all the other things like art and love, those will all come when you focus. There's that great, the Rock, when The Rock is in the gym and he'll say, "Focus!" And then he'll give this little smile. That's true. Fucking focus. He also has another good saying, which I'm gonna close this. That was like a 15-minute rant. He has this great saying where he says, "Blood, sweat, and respect. The first two you give, the last one you earn." And that is just so true. You have to give to get anything. Some people actually, that's not actually true. Some people are super fortunate to be rich and to grow up privileged to the point where they don't need to earn anything. And I'm sorry for those people. I'm supremely jealous, but I'm also sorry for those people. But you need to be constantly giving in this life to truly get something out. And I think eventually we all figure this out. You've got to give it. And when you give and give and give and give, you suddenly want less and you receive much better things. So, almost to Peter's house. So we'll see you then.